All right, welcome to the second summer meeting of the Eastham Part-Time Resident Taxpayers Association. This one is also known as our annual meeting because we do elections of board members or officers if need be, and we also do budgets for next year. I'd like to welcome our guests, Jackie Beebe, Town Administrator, Mike Lorenko, her assistant, Amy Ekman, our selectman, and Pat Nadel, way down the far end of the table, who is the CEO of Outer Cape Health Services, and we'll be hearing from her much later as well. I'd also like to welcome our members and our board members that are here. Oh, excuse me, before I go into that, Mary Shaw and Deb DeJonker-Berry are over in the left corner, and they are representing the library. And over in the right corner, we have Kathleen Weiner from Outer Cape. She has some information for people down there, so you can stop by her table as well. I'd like to introduce our board members who are here today. We have Larry Pasco in the front in the red t-shirt. We have Scott Liebert. Scott, where are you? Oh, Scott must be outside, out front, doing the membership. George Lee is also outside doing membership. Barbara Reed is in the back of the room watching the refreshment table. Here comes Scott down there. We have 3 board members, Sue Connor, Greg Bowie, and Jean Tierney, who are not with us today because of illness and illness and family surgeries. We have also Mary Picars. Mary must be out doing the membership as well. And June Morris is not with us also. Her husband also had recent surgery. We have 3 board members, prospective board members that are also here today. Carolyn Gorzica Thurleman and John Van Kuhn and Hilda Maroli, and you'll hear more about them later. So I think we're just going to get into our meeting. Our secretary's report will be from Dave Baxter, who, by the way, is finishing his term as secretary, and he is leaving, I shouldn't say he's leaving the board, and he's leaving his position as secretary to work with a similar group in the city of Newton, where he lives full-time.
So I need a motion for approving the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Okay, next we have Jen Keene, who is going to give a year-to-date update on the financials and also discuss next year's budget.
Good morning. So on the screen and in your packet is the first page. We have our balance sheet. As of August 3rd, our total assets are $54,716. We have no liabilities, so that is all equity. Our income statement is right underneath that and on the screen now. I went over this last meeting, so there aren't really a lot of changes. Our biggest expenses are our administrator. Community outreach, we gave $5,000 to the library for benches behind the library. The other big expenses, marketing letter for $1,124. We have our meeting expenses, newsletters. So our total expenses are $14,917.88. So as of August 3rd, we have a net income of $297. So the last full year we had is 2017. So the next slide there is 2017 plan versus actual budget. So if we kind of the overall highlights on this, in the far right column, which were the budget versus actual, and this is in your packet too. On the right hand side there, one of the big things was the marketing We reduced the number of marketing letters sent, so we saved $1,158. The meetings there was a difference there. We prepaid the 2018. We had a little, we basically paid 2 years of the ALPS in 1 year, so that's that difference. So next year we won't have any ALPS expenses. The newsletters, we spent less, or we spent more on the newsletters. We sent that out to a few more people. And other expenses was a $760 payment went out this year to a previous administrator from a 2012 check. We're not quite sure how that got cashed, but that was why that was higher than expected. So those were all one-time expenses, which is why our budget was about $750, different than what we projected. Our 2009, so we go to the 2019 plan budget. So in this slide, you have the 2017 budget, the 2018, 2019. There aren't a lot of big changes in the budget. The first one, administrator, went up for about $600. That's a CPI inflation adjustment for our administrator. The other one in marketing is going down $250. That would be for reduced printing and postage, as we send a lot more newsletters and things like that via email. It's cheaper for us to, we have less costs. The other thing, the big line item on the last one is the website. That's down $100. We had a lot of domain names and things like that we purchased in 2018 that we won't need to purchase again for a few years. So, does anyone have any questions on the budget? Okay, not hearing any, I'm making a motion to approve the budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, that's it, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, moving along to the committee reports. Dave Connolly, who is our organization auditor, is not with us today. He's on vacation in Canada. However, he completed the audit and he wrote a letter, which I'm going to read to you quickly, concerning the audit he did for the 2017 year. I have reviewed the fiscal books for fiscal year 2017 and have found all receipts and expenditures to be in order. The fiscal records meet the standards as prescribed by general accounting standards. All checks written are supported by invoices, sales slips, or contracts. The treasurer uses an accounting software package, and this allows for an auditor to see all the expenses quickly and to align them with the monthly bank statements. It provides the association with all the reports it needs to ensure the association that its money is being spent properly. David P. Connolly, Auditor. All right. And next we'll hear from George Lee on the membership. Is he still? Oh, I think Barb has gone out today.
Yeah, we can do Larry.
So in the meantime, let's hear from Chairman of the Outreach Committee, which is Larry Pasco. He's on his way.
Thank you. Good morning. It's nice to see a good selection of folks here. We did get rain last night. We needed badly, and that was good. And the forecast, depending on who you listen to, the rain should be stopping later, and we should be getting nicer weather. It is warm, okay, and the beaches are open, and you've got to look out for sharks and other swimming problems. I did get a letter from Carolyn Overton, and I'm not sure how many of you remember Bob Overton. He was a previous president of EPTRA, and he worked very, very diligently, and he was very, very successful in what he did. And a lot of the things that we have are because of the things that he did. He did pass away. We did donate some money to set up for the library in his name and to set up a room where people can come in and discuss things, et cetera, et cetera. And that's been very successful. Right. We did also donate some money for the benches. The library that we have, that new library, the back of it faces out onto a large body of water. And people like to come down there and sit and eat and look out at the water. And we did put in benches where they can sit, okay? And it really is terrific. I'd like to very quickly read you the letter that I got from Carolyn Overton. The benches at the library in memory of Bob are beautiful. The plaques are so nice. Bob would be very proud and pleased. They are placed in such a peaceful setting, and that's true because I've been there. And as a matter of fact, one of the newspapers showed up and they took a picture of me sitting on the bench, and it was, you know, a little bit embarrassing for me. I don't go in for that sort of thing, but it was really very nice. My family here visiting from Quincy and Texas have had their picture taken sitting on the benches. This memorial is appreciated by me and my family so much. Ettra and Eastham always meant so much to Bob and me too. You are a big asset to Eastham. This would have been our both wedding anniversaries, January and November. We met and have on the Cape working college kids at Howard. John sent in Orleans. Now the Lost Dog Pub. Eastham is our family, and always we will come back to it. Sincerely, Carolyn Overton. She is a delightful lady, and I don't see her here this morning. She usually does make our meetings, and she's just a delight to talk to. We do have, I think that pretty much wraps me up. We do have, let me just see, we don't have any money set up.
No.
We have not set up money to go for any of the things. The monies that we do donate are for things that the town wants to do and is not paying for it, so that we can adjust what we give them, okay, to help pay for that. And Jackie Beebe, who is our town administrator, does an incredible job, and I know you'll hear more about that because she just takes such a strong feeling in getting Eastham to do the kinds of things that we come here and want to have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. As many of you know, the background on our outreach gifts is that according to our bylaws, we are required to donate half of our surplus every year to an outreach gift for the town of Eastham in some way, shape, or form, in items that are not normally covered by town budget. As you can see from Jen, we have no surplus this year, which is understandable because we did give a fair sum of money to the library last year. So it seems like the last few years it's been happening every couple of years. So there will be no gift, as Larry said. Okay, the next portion of the meeting is the nominations committee. George. Oh, George, I'm sorry, that's right, I left George out because he was out in the other room. This is George Lee, our membership chairman, and probably most of you have already passed by him this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we have the membership update. Currently, we have 1,478 members. Notice that 98 of those members have not paid since 2015, so they'll be removed at the end of this meeting. In, I guess, June, we sent out 1,052 marketing letters to Eastham part-time residents. Basically, we look at the town records to see who has recently purchased a house in Eastham and is not a Eastham full-time resident. And this year, we more than doubled the number of marketing letters we sent out, and we got 82 new members versus 72 in the previous year when we only sent out about half the number of marketing letters. Also, 20 members have asked to be removed. Half have moved from Eastham, and six have become full-time residents. You should know that if you do decide to become a full-time resident, you may still be a member of our organization as long as you do not let your membership lapse. So if you do decide to become a full-time resident, consider staying a member of our organization. Okay, here are the, excuse me while papers are sticking together here. Okay, when did members pay their 2017 dues? Just to give you an idea of how people pay dues. You can see a few people paid early. Some people actually paid in 2015, a few in 2016, the great majority at the beginning of 2017. And then you can see that in 2018, we still have people paying their 2017 dues. Okay, here's the membership update. You can see that basically we are sticking around 1,400. Sort of goes up and down a slight bit, but basically it's 1,400 people. And okay, in the fall, we send out what are called amnesty letters. Those are letters to people who have been members who have not paid their current dues to remind them that their dues are due. And last year, we sent out 543 amnesty letters, and we got 165 people to pay up their dues. You should know that 60% of the dwellings in Eastham are seasonal or second homes, and that 35% of our members paid their 2018 dues using PayPal. We appreciate it if you do pay your dues using PayPal because it makes it a lot easier for our treasurer to keep track of things. And it's very easy to do. Just go to the website and just follow the instructions. You'll pay, have it done in less than 5 minutes. Okay, now it's important that we have a good email address for you. As you know, we send out notices about meetings. Also, if there's anything we feel you should know, and you should be familiar with before the next newsletter goes out, we would we would contact you using email. So notice that a few people we have bad emails for, and some people we have no email for. So we'd appreciate anybody who has not given us a email address to give us your current address now. Also, the newsletter, you can see that more than half the people prefer to have it sent by post office, but also quite a few people now are receiving electronically. The unknown means that those 129 people did not tell us one way or the other, so we just assumed that you want it sent by post office. But again, the advantage to having it sent electronically is then you can forward it to other people in your family who are interested in the information about Eastham. Okay, I think that's it. So,
Thank you, George. Okay, next on our agenda is nominations. Jean Tierney, who is a member of our nominations committee, called me yesterday afternoon. He's got a bad cold and cough and felt that he shouldn't be spreading his germs around to us. In his place, we're going to have board member Scott Liebert come and take care of the nominations.
Good morning. I'm here to present the re-election of certain board members and also the election of new board members. In your packet, you have bios on each of the board members for re-election and for new board members. I'm just going to read off their names for re-election. It's Helen Kinsman, Mary P. Cars, Jennifer Keene for treasurer, myself for secretary, Jean Tierney as director, and these Greg Bowie as director, George Lee as director, Larry Pasco as director, and Barbara Reed as director. These are all for re-election. For new election, it's Hilda Maroli, John Van Kuyen, Carolyn Thurleman, if I've got your name right. And I'd like to nominate those, throw them on the floor. Do I have a second for the nomination? All those, do I have any questions? No questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. And welcome our three new board members, Hilda, Carolyn, and John. As you see at the bottom of the agenda, we have a little note about people who would be interested in joining our board, and we're very happy that this year we have 3 new people. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going into the speaker portion of our meeting. Our guest speaker today is Pat Nadel. Pat is the CEO of Outer Cape Health Services. They have locations in Wellfleet, Harwich, and Provincetown. Some of you may have experience visiting one of those locations. Probably chances are Wellfleet in our case. I know I have been to the Wellfleet Center for various things over the years, but she would like to come and explain more about the organization, what they do, what they offer, and their locations. Pat?
Good morning. Hear me okay? Perfect. Okay, great. The last time I did a presentation such as this, I couldn't see the slides at all, so I didn't know where we were. It's kind of a challenge, but at least I can see them now, so this is great. We want to thank you for letting us come this morning and tell you a little bit about what we're doing. We've been in the media lately, where there's a lot of activity swirling around our Wellfleet Health Center, finally. And so what I thought we'd do is bring you up to speed on what we're going to be doing over the next year, and maybe start with how we got here, so if that's okay. The first thing I'd like to do, though, is thank Jackie and the town leadership for, we've embarked, we've learned in the past many months or into years now, that health care isn't just restricted to treatment rooms, within the treatment room themselves, and that we've begun to branch out into the communities with what we call our community navigators. They actually meet people where they live, and they help to work with the other agencies within the town to help circle services around folks. There's something called the social determinants of health, which have a really high contributor to whether you're healthy or not just your medical care, and that's housing and transportation and jobs and all kind of food, everything that affects folks. And so we petitioned Eastham a couple of years ago to consider helping to fund one of our navigators, partially fund. So we have a navigator that covers Eastham, Wellfleet, and Truro. And we're seeing some really good results from that. So again, I want to thank you for that before I even start. So our mission, we've been here and we really are here to provide healthcare and supportive services, and just like I've just described, that promote health and well-being for those living and visiting both the lower and the outer Cape towns. Our service area, we actually now serve 10 towns. We start, if you want to start in the Yarmouth area, Dennis, and then move up through Chatham and Brewster, Orleans, Eastham, Wellfleet, Truro, and Provincetown. So that's considered our catchment area. So we've really expanded the footprint to allow for hopefully greater access to health care. We operate, as Helen said earlier, we operate 3 health centers. One in Provincetown, you may be familiar with that one if you've ever visited out there. It's been out there for over 30 years. We have our Wellfleet Health Center here, right up the road a piece. And we have a small health center which currently has 5 exam rooms. We are in the process of building a new one that will open in the fall, which will have 18 new rooms, which will be huge, given huge demand in those towns for services. This is the, it looks almost the same except the car in front is somewhat different. That's, believe it or not, that's our current Wellfleet Health Center. And we've incorporated back in 1987 with the merger from the Provincetown Health Center, and then founded Wellfleet in 1966. The Wellfleet Health Center, if you don't know that, it's probably one of the only ones still in existence. It's a Sears and Roebuck catalog clinic. Believe it or not, we were hoping that the Smithsonian was interested, but we haven't heard of anything. Once we start our construction, it's all over. And there it sits and looks pretty much the same, I think. So if you drive by, take a look, or if you drive in, you'll know where you're going. But since then, when you think of the calendar year last year, we saw nearly 17,000 individuals and over just about 70,000 visits in those 3 sites. And we grow every year considerably. So for the Outer Cape towns, that's really about more than 50% of the Outer Cape population. So when you think of what's available in these towns for healthcare, access to primary healthcare, we're probably pretty much it. We are what's called a federally qualified health center. We receive funding from the federal government. It's a small percentage of our income, but it really is meant to recognize that those who enter our doors, whether they have insurance or not, will be seen. No one is turned away, ever, okay? So it's a recognition of that. We're held to a standard. We're held to sort of a numbers for access. How many patients have you seen? How many more patients have you seen? We do help folks get insurance, so that if someone should come in without insurance, we have an individual staff person in each site who will sit with individuals and help them to access insurance coverage based on what they can afford or not. So that's really important. So no one is denied any access, but also to accept federal funds, we're held to a very high quality standard of clinical outcomes. We have to report our outcomes in pretty much a lot of our metrics around immunization, well child visits, mammography screening, colon screening, so that it really is you're helping the community stay healthy, okay? So there's an expectation that we do that, and there's an expectation of meeting a certain number of percent performance as well. So that's important to know. This is just a breakdown of our income, just so that you know, we do have private insurance and self-pay folks. The other half of the payers are government payers, and then we do have the uninsured population, small numbers, but we do help them access health care. We give them health care, but we also help them get access to insurance as well. As I said, less than 10% of we have a $22 million operating income. It's grown quite a lot in the last few years. With the expansion in Harwich, we're expecting a significant growth in those lower Cape towns. Okay, the new Wellfleet. Now you remember the old picture. This is the new picture. So where that set of windows is on the front there, that's where the door was that you currently walk in. Okay, so just think about it being reoriented to its side. We will be building an expansion around the far side. If you're looking at the building, it's around the right side and across the back. It will add another 2,500 square feet. It's currently 5,000 square feet. We're bringing it up to 7,500 square feet. And the design is a much more efficient, has anybody been in the Wellfleet Health Center? It's a little old, it's got a lot of miles, it's not really set up in a contemporary style. Our clinical team really designed the setting to be very efficient for patients who come in, so it's a nice, easy, in the door, into the waiting room, into registration. Lab will be right there, and then there's a racetrack effect, so that right down the middle of the building will be all the workstation areas where the clinical team will work, and the rooms are all around the outside. So that kind of gives you sort of a general idea. That will go into construction by the end of October. Just so you know, we put the, you may have read the paper, we did get a lot of, get all our permitting done by the town of Wellfleet back in July. We have put the bid invitation in the paper this past Wednesday. We had our first pre-bid conference yesterday on the site with folks who are interested in bidding on the project. We will open the bids on September 14th. And that's because this is also going to have some federal funds associated with it. We have follow lots of rules, and award the contract probably by the end of September to begin construction by the end of October or beginning of November. Okay, so we have embarked on this is the project. This is in Harwichport. If anybody's familiar where Brack's Landing is in Harwichport, the old Thompson's Market. Okay, this is the old Thompson's Market. We feel that we're probably nourishing the community in a slightly different way, but it's, we are currently on Chatham Road, which is just about a mile down the road, in a little 5-room, we call it Grandma's Cottage. This will have 18 exam rooms and 2 behavioral health rooms. And so it will be open at the end of October. So as this opens, we'll move into the construction on Wellfleet. So that by June of next year, both Wellfleet will be complete and reopened. Why we have to do it off season is, as you can tell, you're all here. Lots of visitors are here. Our volume in both Wellfleet and Provincetown goes up about 50% on a daily basis. So it's a huge influx of demand. And so we really have to do Wellfleet in off-season and then have it ready for you when you come back next June. Okay, so we're embarked on that. And this site will open in October, late October, and allow us to, we will have to close for the winter up here and redirect patients to Harwichport and Provincetown, because this isn't the kind of construction that can be done and still have people in the building. We're taking the building right down to its studs and then rebuilding it from the top, from the bottom up. Okay. The Provincetown Health Center, if you've been out there, we finished that project last May of 17. We completed that. That was in, that's its final version. We had one last wing that we created for urgent care. There's a lot of urgent care business, obviously, out in Provincetown, and so we created that wing last year, so that's complete. And we believe now we're ready for the next 50 years. So we've been here, Wellfleet's been there 52 years, Provincetown's been there 32 years, and we figure with all the renovations now, we'll be all complete, we'll be here and ready for you for the next 50 years. I think there's one last slide. I think it's important just to think about, because medicine is going in another direction, telehealth, telemedicine. So what we've done is equipped every room with the capability for that as we start to begin to enter that era. That way, we provide mostly primary care, but the ability to access specialty care in the future will have a great opportunity through the telemedicine, telehealth linkages. And so what we've done is equipped each of our sites with the ability to grow into that, so that we can begin to bring specialty care to the outer Cape Towns, lower and outer Cape Towns as well. So that's going to be important for us to think about, and maybe for you to think about as you move here, stay here longer, and because we will be able to have that capability available to you as well. I think that is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat, for your very informative speech on the three areas, probably the two most important for us, being Wellfleet and Provincetown, and the fact that there are pharmacies located close to each one of those. There's pharmacies, of course, in Orleans, which is close to Eastham as well, but if you're visiting Wellfleet, especially for health services, it's very convenient that there's a pharmacy there as well. Get your prescriptions filled. Thank you.
Great commercial break. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the daughter of a pharmacist, I know. Okay, next we're going to be hearing from Jackie Beebe, who is our town administrator. Jackie has been the town administrator for, is it 2 or 3 years?
A year and not even a year and a half.
Oh my God, what time? Well, you were coming before that.
Yes, yes.
That's true, yes. Who has done a wonderful job following up on our previous administrator. Jackie?
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always so great to be here and see all of you dedicated people coming out on a Saturday morning in August. And it's been a soupy August, really. I'm here today with my Assistant Town Administrator, Finance Director, Mike Lorenko, and I know most of you probably haven't met Mike yet. Mike is celebrated his year anniversary with me in June, and he has a degree in accounting from Bentley, worked in Big Four accounting as an auditor, and got a master's degree in public administration, and formerly was involved with the budget of a $70 million nonprofit. So I'm so fortunate to have Mike. He is giving us a depth in our finance unit that we haven't had before, and so it's been a really nice partnership, and I thank him for coming this morning so that you could see him. Next year we'll do some more, glitzy financials for you. So, and Amy Ekman, selectman, longtime selectman, back with us again. We're so happy, and she's been enormously supportive to me, and I thank her for being here this morning too. Just following up on Pat's speech, full disclosure, I've been a primary care patient of Outer Cape Health since 1994. My whole family goes there. My child had all her pediatric appointments there. It's a fabulous place, and I guess I just want to let you know that they take all kinds of insurances too. They're not just a safety net for our community. They're an extraordinarily highly qualified primary care facility. And she didn't pay me to say that, but it's just true.
They give us commercials, it's great.
And the second piece is the Navigator program that she alluded to is the right thing to do for Eastham. It's a $75,000 commitment, $25,000 a year for us, but it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. And it's the right thing to do for our residents who have drug addictions and all kinds of other issues that really can't be dealt with in a traditional way. But the practical side of me wants you to know that it's also the financial right thing to do. It's smart for us. It's financially sound and smart, and this is why. Each time rescue goes out for these people to rescue them, to transport them to the hospital, to be there for an overdose, to be there in a homeless situation, to be there in a housing inspection situation, it costs us money because we don't get reimbursed for that. So every dime we put into the Navigator program for us is less money we have to spend in very expensive emergency services. So I just wanted you to know that there's a method to our madness in supporting that program, and I'm trying to convince other town administrators of that as well. So I'm going to try not to speed talk, but I do have a lot. It's amazing how many things happen in a year when that's when I talk to you is once a year. So last year I talked about the Northeast TAM issue that we were having. It was everyone's big concern that Dollar General was coming, that the Tea Time property might be coming, and what was going to happen to our rural East TAM. And so I'm happy to report that we listened to those concerns and have really tried to get out ahead from the reactionary point of view of saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? Dollar General wants to buy 3 acres of property. So we used a tool that's at our disposal with the Cape Cod Commission called the District of Critical Planning Concern, and we're able to freeze zoning in that commercial district of 3 miles between basically Brackett Road and the Wellfleet, but also a little bit ahead of that. Our commercial district starts. We were able to freeze zoning to give us time to get our zoning bylaws together, to have public meetings, to work with the planners at the Cape Cod Commission to really address future needs in that area. And we were able to pass that new zoning at town meeting, so it is in place. It's going to be tweaked over time. And I think people will be pleased at where we're going with that district and how we're going to try and not control development specifically, but direct development so that it is the kind of development that we want, and more importantly, it looks like we want it to look. It retains the rural character. It adds some density, but in a certain way, in the way that we think is an appropriate way. Basically, I think it's going well, and it's going to take time to see those effects, and it will tie in with a lot of other projects that we're doing that I'll hopefully be able to talk about later. Second big news is our water project update. July 13th was our 36-month anniversary of construction of that very important, very expensive project. We've now completed 60 miles of water mains. We have a storage tank and 2 wells. We are pumping 250,000 gallons of water a day into that system. We have 706 customers with 100 customers pending right now as Phase 2A goes online. We're looking for the 1,200 to 1,500 customer range to be really comfortably making money for the town. But the good news is Phase 1 was under budget by a considerable amount of money. Phase 2A, just completing now, is also under budget. And so the total that we have not had to borrow in this project is $6.7 million, which for the first 2 phases is a huge difference, and we're very, very happy to be able to report that to you. Yeah, sure.
I want to mention that if anyone has any questions for Jackie or for any of the other, for Mike or for Amy as we go along, or for Pat either, there are 2 board members, one on either side, Mary and Barbara, who have index cards and pens if you want to write your note out your question, and they will make sure that people in the front of the room get those questions. Thank you.
If you want to hook up to public water, and that was a question in the July meeting, basically, we do have on our website contractor lists who can do both the excavation externally and the plumber lists inside. Both the contractor list and the plumber lists are people that have gone through a training on how to hook up to the water system. We're confident that they have insurance references and have passed sort of our little first review of tests. If we have complaints about any of those contractors, we remove them from the list. So just to give you some confidence, if you are looking to hook up and you want to do that, you can go on our website and get that information. In terms of the affordable housing update, the Purcell project just came back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's the one on Brackett Road that the town went out to bid on, townhome style, 64 units. It's going to be beautiful. We just passed another level of zoning board review. We had to make a couple of changes to the comprehensive permit. So that's delayed the groundbreaking a little bit. It's a $23 million project, and we're sort of haggling now over the last $400,000 or $500,000 as we kind of head to the closing. But it is going to happen, and we will be breaking ground this fall. In terms of tea time, that project is still in appeals with the Housing Court in Boston. We've had many, many back and forths between the ZBA and the attorneys for their project and the attorneys for the town. And we're hoping to come to a compromise so that they can return for a full review of a new design starting this fall. So tea time isn't gone, but we're hoping to reshape it a bit so that it's a little more palatable. And of course, that project also relies on state funding and tax credits, which are shrinking as we speak. So I'm not sure that they'll ever be able to get the funding to go forward with that, but we're keeping our eye very carefully on that project. In terms of wastewater, we did have a wastewater initiative at town meeting this past year. I know people are concerned about that looming cost. We're trying to take a very conservative approach to wastewater. We really don't have the ability to do traditional sewering in Eastham. We don't have a place to do sewage treatment anywhere that's big enough. So we're looking at some alternative techniques that have been tried in lots of other places, and we're really watching those. But we're focusing on Salt Pond with 3 initiatives starting this year. One is to improve the drainage along Route 6 and redo the drainage system so that we do not have runoff into Salt Pond. That's one prong of it. Second is to stop the movement of nitrates into the pond from people's septic systems, and we're using a new technique called permeable reactive barriers, testing those on the side of the salt pond that is adjacent directly to the visitor center. We're doing some test pits now, and that technology should be going in within the next year or two. And the third thing is just taking a look at some aquaculture, and that's a big place for aquaculture as it is now, but we're looking to expand that to see if we can filter more of those nitrates out of the water. So that's Salt Pond. The drainage on Route 6, that project is receiving funding from the USDA, so it's actually a matching grant. The town will pay 1/3 of the cost, and the USDA will pay 2/3 of the cost, and that's a grant, it's not a loan. So that takes a $1 million project and reduces it to $250,000, which is very exciting for us. We're doing very well with grants, both federal and state and other at this point. In terms of other capital projects, the Rock Harbor improvement also passed town meeting this year, and I have some good news on that. We started with phase 1, which is going to be a complete renovation or replacement of the docks, piers, pilings in Rock Harbor. But we also have applied for, and recently were granted from the Mass Seaport Economic Council, a grant to do a complete harbor plan for not only Rock Harbor, but the estuary and all the town landings. And we were granted $80,000 for that the other day, but that also unlocks funding for us, statewide funding that will allow us to get grant money for the rest of the Rock Harbor renovation, for the new harbor master's shack, for things like the revetment, and for future dredging. You have to have a harbor plan and have done that process in order to get that funding, and so very happy to report that we're on our way with that. So before we spend a penny of town money on that project, you know, Mike and I are dedicated to trying to find any other funding source we can. We thank you for the appropriation, but on the other hand, we're not going to spend it immediately. The other thing we're doing is some police station renovations, and again, unlike some other towns, we're trying to really keep it to the bare minimum of what the police station needs, which is a new roof, the basement where the training rooms and the locker rooms and bathrooms are need to be totally renovated. So we're going to renovate the building as it exists, not add on, and probably start both of those projects this fall. We'll be working on the planning and permitting for Rock Harbor, which will take quite a bit, and then the police station renovation will be a fairly short process. Other engineering projects are longtime DPW Superintendent Neil Andres has moved on. He will be retiring from the town of Eastham in October. And he hasn't been working since May, so again, I've taken over some of the engineering projects that were frankly languishing, and have really tried to get some of those on the fast track, and most of them surround drainage and roads. So I just wanted to let people know that priority roads right now for the drainage are Cole Road, that's really a very pivotal spot. There's a public beach. There's a neighborhood that's waited for years to get some relief from some very, very significant drainage. It's along a coastal environment with also our herring run and culvert. So it's a very important road. We're currently contracted with Weston and Sampson to do that work, and hopefully I will have a cost estimate for it and be ready to start permitting that this winter. Second is South Sunken Meadow Road. I don't know if any of you are from that area, but that is another road that is just literally underwater anytime it has a significant rainstorm. And so that project is past engineering and is now, Marty Mickle, my assistant DPW director, will be actually installing catch basins, 3 of them on that road right after Labor Day. If that doesn't significantly help the situation, which it may not because of the sea level ratio there, and we may have to do a rain garden, which is I'm going to start permitting that. So it's sort of a 2-phase project. We're going to try the catch basins. If they don't work, we're going to go with a more significant rain garden project. Nauset Lake Beach Road, I know a lot of people in that neighborhood are concerned with that. I don't know if any of you are from that neighborhood, but we are working with the seashore now. We have an engineered plan working with the seashore to try and reroute that road so that we can literally save access for the neighbors that are beyond the point where the road is starting to literally fall into the sea. So we're trying to get access to the deeper neighborhood along that road. We're also doing a drainage project with the herring runs at Great Pond. And I'm working with the Conservation Commission to try and get a plan together, an annual replenishment plan that they will allow us to do to bring sand back to the beaches, at the ponds. We used to do it. For some reason, the CONSCOM has not allowed us to for the past few years, and the pond beaches are getting very rocky and unkept looking. So Shane, our conservation agent, myself, and Beach and Rec Director Christine Mickle are working with the CONSCOM to come up with some regular plan that they will allow for us to do some trimming, beach replenishment there. I know that's a concern for a lot of people who love the ponds. Retail marijuana did pass in the state, as you know, and I'm proud to say I think we got a little bit ahead of the curve on that one. We got out, we changed our zoning. When we knew it was inevitable, we really worked to look at what time, place, and manner we wanted retail marijuana sales to be in the community. And I think Planning Board did a great job with that. We passed a bylaw at town meeting. We have the maximum number of retail establishments for Eastham is now set at 2. They are only allowed in the Tradesman Park area, which is off of Holmes Road, or our 2 commercial districts. So I think, you know, we have one applicant for medical marijuana only. We don't have any retail applicants right now. The medical applicant is a good company. We feel pretty confident that they'll be able to handle it. And they will be they're going into the Mercantile area in a small condominium there. So one of Mike and my goals for this past year and into the future is to look for non-property tax revenue for the town. We need to be really creative in trying to find those areas where we can increase our revenue because expenses continue to grow. So rather than keep taxing you guys to death, we are trying to find what are those revenue streams that we can encourage and grow for the town. The medical marijuana business, unfortunately, is an area that's inevitable for us, but we also get 3% of any gross revenues of any of those businesses. So, you know, that is a new stream of revenue that will be coming to the town. We don't know when. We don't know when that one medical establishment is going to be truly permitted by the state, but once it does, we will begin to get revenue from that. We also this year at town meeting passed the local options meals tax, which should bring about $130,000 a year in new revenue to the town. We're also looking at all kinds of other small ways to increase revenue. As you all know and have followed, the rental tax, the local option rental tax, the bill was not signed by the governor, so that is kind of in limbo for now. We are not sure, no one's sure whether that will come back this year or next year, but I assume it will come back at some point, but for now, it is not an option. Last year, we also, in terms of revenue, received over $500,000 in grant funds, and staff is aggressively pursuing any grant funds that we can, including, you know, the SAFER grant for the firefighters, grants for Rock Harbor, anything that's available, we're going after. And the Purcell property, even though that wasn't a grant, $23 million was raised by getting the state of Massachusetts to give us $12 million in tax credits, which then were sold kind of like bonds to create that $20 million war chest. And then there's one basically $4 million debt that the developer took on. But the town really has invested, well, from my last calculations, about $1.5 million in that project over time, including the land purchase that we made years ago that we've already mostly paid for. So we've contributed $20,000 per unit, and we'll have those 64 units forever. So pretty good investment, I think, on our part. The only other thing, we are working on a townwide strategic plan to guide us basically in how to prioritize and make decisions for the future. Which projects are the most important? What do residents and taxpayers really want us to focus on? So I noticed on your agenda at the bottom of the page, there is a link to that survey. We really want to hear from the part-time resident taxpayers, so please fill out that survey for us and let us know what you appreciate about what we're doing and what you'd like to see us do more or less of. And then this year, next year, we're focusing basically on, we should have by this fall a complete transportation study of the Route 6 corridor that was done by the Cape Cod Commission for us to help inform us also what to be working on with the DOT in terms of what we want Route 6 to look at. So that's going to be a conversation for the next year or two, how to reshape Route 6 to make it work for us, and what do we need to do there. That works into our funding for complete streets. So one of the things that Mike and I have hired a consultant to do is update our pavement management plan, help us get complete streets funding, which is basically taking a look at how people move around in town, cycling, walking, making our streets more friendly. There are grants available for that, and we're trying to knit together the funding that we have with Chapter 90 funds, with Complete Streets from the state, and with our normal pavement management planning to take a long-term perspective and get a good 5 to 10 year plan of which roads need to be updated, which roads need to be improved, what drainage options need to be added. It's really time for us to get in front of that rather than reacting to it all the time. And that's our goal. The other thing we need to do is a 10-year capital plan for our buildings and our capital. We've been reacting too much and not forward planning some of those things. So that's basically the goal for this year and budget season, is to get a hold of our general maintenance and capital budget. It sounds like a simple thing, but it's really not, and but we're going to get a handle on it before next town meeting. And I think that's my general update, and I'm ready for questions, I guess. Please update on rental tax. It's stuck. So the governor did not sign the bill. The House and Senate had a compromise bill that they submitted to the governor's office. The governor asked very frankly for some very simple changes, and they refused to make them. So we're nowhere with that. Oh. Update on status of Eastham jurisdiction over Sand Beach south of entrance to Town Cove. There is no new update. The last update was that there are cement bounds that show where the town of Eastham begins and ends in that area. So we are sticking to it. They've been there since, I don't know,
1796.
1796. So, you know, Orleans can say whatever they want, but we own the beach. So, you know, from 1796 we own the beach, and it's very rare that you have cement bounds, right? So, you know, come on.
Stone bounds, actually.
So they can do whatever they want. Oh, Cole Road. Have I addressed Cole Road enough?
No.
Communication with you has been missing, and I agree, and I would be glad to come out and talk to you about that. Dogs on the beaches is another whole issue that I should have spent time on today, and I didn't. What I've done this summer to take a look at our enforcement, which is clearly lacking in a lot of ways, and I agree with you, partially because we just don't have the staff. Two things we've done. First of all, I've told our manager in Natural Resources that she can come up with any schedule she wants to address the issue, which really helps us, because in prior years, everybody knew that the Natural Resources staff showed up at 8 in the morning and left at 4. So if you show up at 8 and you leave at 4, everybody can just take their dogs to the beach at 7:30 or come at 4:30, and it works out perfectly for everyone. But it doesn't. And so she's now doing a schedule that's based on tides, and you know, when the tide is out and people love to go to the beach with their dogs, they may run into a natural resource officer. We have 4 of them, and we have a lot of beaches and landings, so they're doing the best job they can. Second issue, though, is for next season, we are going to put some extra money in the budget for summer help just to patrol beaches. I think it's time to do that, and we need to invest in that. So it's really a short money kind of thing to get some enforcement. So hopefully next year will be better, although we've seen some progress already. We have issued a lot of dog tickets this year because of just that little tweak in schedule where people don't know when staff is going to show up has made a difference. Several beaches at first encounter are being covered with sand. Can DPW remove the sand so that they can be used again?
Benches.
Oh, benches, I'm sorry, benches. They can try to remove sand. The CONSCOM doesn't want benches to be there and doesn't want us to touch the beaches, period. So it is a battle over that, and hopefully I will add that to my pond nourishment plan. Mike, if you take that note for me to remind me, because I know that we've had some benches that have actually gone into the water too on that. Usually I try and sort these. Okay, I live on a road which is private subdivision from the 40s. What process can we put in place to harden the road? Okay. Basically, if you live on a private road, the only plan right now that we have to assist you with private road maintenance is if you petition the town to become a public road. So that requires, under our bylaw now, 100% agreement from all the people that own any rights to the road. So there is a process, we have it, it's fairly simple. Once you get those signatures, it goes through a process, and we can ask the town to take the road. The other thing we can do is snowplow private roads now if, again, you get together with your neighbors and all petition to have that service provided. However, we're only doing that on paved roads that are at least 20 feet
25.
wide.
And-
No,
oh.
20.
Yeah, 20 feet wide, but 25 homes, I think.
Oh, okay. I don't know if there's,
Something-
but
there's
there
some
are,
number.
there are
There's a
conditions
number.
on that. We're going to the most dense private roads, clearly. But that, you know, the selectmen can make a decision to open that up a little bit as we develop more capacity. So if you're interested, just send an email, basically, to administration, and we'll do that. What percentage age of people with access to town water are using the town water? We don't know that. I don't know if we've looked at any demographic data. We know that that as we bring town water to people, that people that have great well water are not converting to public water, and people that have water issues, either with salt intrusion or nitrates or other issues, are hooking up at a high rate. So phase 2A, we caught a lot of those people, and so we have 100 people trying to hook up to public water right now. But it's been slow. I mean, we're looking for a higher percentage. So right now, we have about a 30% rate of hookup. We'd like to get that up to 50% on each phase. Why does walk signal at Brackett Road and Route 6 only stay on for about 5 seconds? Oh my God. It's frightening. And at my office, I look at that signal and I get out there, and I'm a pretty brisk walker, and it starts to flash before you've taken 5 steps. I totally get it. We've written to the DOT. They actually came down and looked at several lights, but one of them was the Nauset Road Route 6 intersection, and they did a great job agreeing with us on that one. I mean, they said, you're absolutely right, this is dangerous and we should do something about it. But we haven't had any luck getting them to make that light longer. And I agree, we will continue to harass them, basically. Oh, tea time. What happens if the developer does not get funding or credits? We're going to be ready. That's what's going to happen. I think that, you know, one of the lessons that we've learned is that, you know, government is often very reactionary. And, you know, we're very busy and we're doing a lot of things and we react to things as opposed to getting out in front. And if we're going to make any inroads to Route 6 and that area, in terms of tea time, we have to get out in front, and I think, you know, Amy would agree that the Board of Selectmen is ready to do that. We're ready to purchase land if we need to purchase land. With Purcell, we now know that we can get into the redevelopment business, and we can do it. And so we can do it without a lot of cost to the taxpayer, and so we're ready to get out there, and that's all I can say right now, but don't worry, no worries. Homeowners insurance is expensive and there are limited options, yes. Are there resources to find competitive affordable policies? The only one that I know of is the Mass Property Insurance Association, MPUIA. That's the only big fund that I know of that the state supports to help coastal property owners with property insurance. Other than that, there are no options that I'm aware of. Is there an up-to-date report available for future phases of the water supply project? Yes. If you go on our website, there is an up-to-date report of where we are in the phases. You can also put in your property address and it will tell you when you can get water. I will tell you we're about, as well as being $6.7 million under budget, we're almost 3 years ahead of schedule. So right now in Phase 2B, as we look at Phase 2B, we're going to be pushing properties from C and D forward. So we're taking a look at who needs the water the most, who's more likely to hook up, and we're moving some of those roads forward. But yes, it's right on the website, and if you have trouble finding it, just call Town Hall, ask for administration, and we'll walk you through it. Please address the issue of beach closures on the Bay side. It's been frightening, and I understand that it is, and we're not sure. I just talked to my health agent on yesterday, and she's not sure. It is a bacteria. It is not, it tends to get driven up whenever we have rain or storms. It picks the bacteria up off the beaches, off the coastal banks, and washes it into the water, and then it's present in the water when they do the testing. So the good news is that we do have a great testing system, and they keep retesting the water. But the bad news is it dogs on the beach? Is it people's septic? We're not sure. I think we have to look at all those issues and really try and enforce as much as possible, but also just be aware that the bacteria exists in the environment and it's moving around, and we have a lot of people moving around in July and August. So what is the schedule for testing quality of ponds, public swimming? I don't know if the pond testing schedule is posted, but we have pond testing weekly. Just like our beaches, all the swimming areas are tested, and through Barnstable County, not the town. And basically the county will notify us if we need to do a beach or a pond closure. So the ponds have been pretty stable and good this year. We've had some trouble with the bay beaches, not the ocean side. And we continue to test all the time. So if a beach fails a test, then it's tested every day after that until it passes again. So until it clears, the bacteria clears. And there's obviously no way to treat it. What is the number of boat storage permits at Boat Meadow so limited? Oh, why is it so limited? This year I could not get a permit for my kayak. Basically because of complaints where we had so many boats on the beach, so many recreational boats on the beach, they tend to be stacked up in a pile. People couldn't get to their boats. So we did put a limit on all the town landings of a certain number of permits. And we can revisit that year to year, but that's why it just became an issue for us. No swimming, no shellfishing signs at Sunken Meadow Beach. Is this due to rain runoff? It could be, yes. That's why beach closures do happen more often when we have big storms, and that storm on last Thursday really triggered a lot of issues. I'm concerned with the water quality at Cooksbrook Beach, 8 days and 5 days in August. South Sycamore. The other adjacent public beach campground was closed for 1 day. All other East End Bay beaches passed routine water tested. Is this a local wastewater problem? It could be. What action is the town of East End taking to identify the sources of this problem? There is no remediation. So addressing the sources of the problem, I don't know if we know how to do that. I mean, if septic systems are working the way they should, then it should not be dumping any nitrate into the ocean, and you should be able to see that and smell that. So I don't anticipate that these beach closings are directly related to any one person's septic system not functioning. I think it is more of a factor of a lot of people and dogs and issues on our beaches, and those are very crowded areas in July and August. We don't get negative tests in other times of the year, but we do randomly get negative tests when there are storms. So storms carry all kinds of things into the water and circulate things in the water. But we will be certainly discussing the beach closes this year. It has been more extreme than other seasons, absolutely. So we do need to take a look at that in more depth over the winter. In terms of sharks, we're a little bit more fortunate. We haven't had shark sightings in Eastham. Port Truro seems to be struggling with that this year. More so than other towns, but they had several sightings just the other day, even after that attack on that gentleman. But I will say he was swimming off the beach, and there were a lot of seals around. So, you know, the best way to protect yourself is to watch for the seals and try not to, honestly, look like a surfboard and be out in the water. You know, stay close to where other people are. Sharks don't come to you, but they will, you know, try and get that seal. And if they think you're a seal, you're in trouble. Regarding recycling, what is North Eastham's plan to bring in private business and regular residents who dump recyclables into the main garbage? Okay, so we're, also that's a project for this winter to talk about, you know, does single stream recycling make sense? What versions of recycling make sense? And does pay as you throw make sense? And that's a controversial topic always, but it is something that we will be looking at sort of from a cost-benefit analysis. The only real money we're making from recycling now is in metals recycling. Everything else costs us money, but it's worth it for the environment. So we do need to take a look at people dumping recycling in the CMAS trash, because that's not a good thing. I think that's it. Don't have any other questions? Oh. Yes.
I'm writing the question. I came in late. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One thing is, I may have missed this, is the town considering raising parts of Samoset Road near First Encounter Beach? It's starting to flood multiple places now. It used to be just in the winter at one location. Now it's at a couple of different places.
Samoset Road is a priority road for the Complete Streets program. It's looking like it is, Amy, right, still? So I think that one of the things that I just got from the consultant was a big document with cost estimates of Samoset. So we would have to add drainage. I don't know if we would be raising the road or not, but yes, we're certainly considering Samoset as a priority road for a little bit of widening, reshaping, and we'd have to do drainage and pavement as well.
Okay, and that's the first question. Second question is it true that the town or the water authority has started to let some of the hydrants run 24/7 at the end of roads where there's very little flow?
No. So we would do normal flushing. We're required to flush. The DEP requires us to flush water mains, and that is usually done at hydrants, but it wouldn't be 24/7. It would be for a period of time that is determined by the Department of Environmental Protection. It has nothing to do with what we want to do or don't want to do.
Because I heard from some neighbors down in the First County area that they spotted hydrants that had like garden hoses coming out of them, running 24/7 at the end of the line in some of the new areas.
Well, if garden hoses are running, what we have to do, okay, so when you add a new segment of water main, you have to do a regular flush to get rid of the sand and bacteria. Then they chlorinate that section, that new section, and then they flush it again. And then they hook it up to the water system. So we don't hook up new sections until they've been flushed, chlorinated, flushed again, and then they pass a test. Then they get connected to the water so they might have, that's true, they might have seen that process happening on a new water main, yes. But again, that's just part of the process that we go through to connect it to the rest of the system. Oh, yes?
You have a lot of discussion about bacteria in the ponds and the issues with that.
Yep.
You know, for folks, I mean, one of the things might come in the Bay of Breakers, where you basically in one afternoon swim in 5 or 6 different places in East End. You start on the bay side on a bike and the Great Pond or the Depot Pond and end up in the ocean.
Yep.
If you're swimming, and this is just an example, are there like invasive species or bacteria that are unique to one pond that if we swim in Great Pond and then they're still wet and you're going off and 20 minutes later you're swimming in Depot Pond, that you're going to pollute Depot Pond or the stuff in Great Pond, that we ought to be concerned about that? Because there's a fair amount of people who do it, and I was just thinking about there's issues with Pond A.
I haven't, you know, our health and conservation agent, Jane Crowley, has been studying the ponds and wastewater now for at least 12 years. And she is a scientist, and we have so many consultants working on that. And I have never heard that suggested as that we have anything that can be carried from one pond to another by a human. There's only one pond flora that when it blooms is toxic to people and especially to dogs. So usually she will close down the pond, and we have had one bloom this year, and I think it was in May.
Is it Morris Pond?
Yes, it was Moll's Pond or Schoolhouse. It was one of the tiny ponds. But other than that, there's nothing that's toxic. And the ponds have tested fine all summer, so they've done fine. It's mostly the bay beaches, and it is, the bacteria is the fecal bacteria. It's coliform. That's what's showing up. So it's not high nitrates, it's not any form of flora. It's just regular coliform bacteria. Yeah.
I just wanted to, because people were concerned about water quality. And James Crowley gave me a link to the Barnstable County Health Organization. And there they list all of the test results for all of Barnstable County. And you can go into Eastham, see all the ponds, all the beaches, and what's been going on. And then you can really get a lot of information.
About what it is, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can kind of see Cooksbrook Beach and South Sucky Meadow Beach is a local problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, the website, if anybody is interested, because I thought it was very interesting. It's Barnstable County Health Organization / programs and services / bathing beach water quality /
Why don't,
So it's many, many, many layers, and it's full of very interesting.
what we'll do is, on our website, we'll add a link to that, the home page that will go to that site. We can do that this week so that people can see it. But yeah, it's definitely something that we have to look at over the winter. I just don't think it's gonna be a simple fix. Like, she really today has no idea why that's showing up. And then I had one other question. Where does the road runoff in the catch basins of Steel Road empty out to? And they're thinking, oh, Cooksbrook Beach. I will look at, we just did a GPS stormwater analysis of where everything goes and where the runoff points are, so I will look at that. I don't think it goes to Cooksbrook Beach. I don't remember seeing any outfalls anywhere near that, but I will check because we do have that data. Yes?
Could we post that website on the resident newsletter?
Sure, we can send it to you. Absolutely. Oh,
Do
one
you
more.
have something now on the website that updates when it's closed and when it's open? I had an incident this last time when it rained on Thursday and we were planning on shellfishing on Monday.
Yeah.
Friday the sign was up. I wasn't sure if you guys checked it on the weekend, so we canceled our plans and Monday was okay, but we didn't go because we didn't know.
Usually if they're closed, it's 24 to 48 hours. And they do update it on over the weekend.
Yeah, on the website, we usually put, it would usually be in red on the website, front page of the website, we usually put beach closure on there.
But would we update that over the weekend? Probably
Well,
not.
They wouldn't be retest till Monday. anyway.
Yeah, exactly, they don't do.
So they'll retest, they will retest on a Saturday, but not on a
Just in the
Sunday.
morning, though.
Yeah.
Because the sign, we checked Sunday night at 5 o'clock, the sign was still up. Monday morning at 6:30, the sign was down. So sometime between 5 o'clock.
And you know what happens is we get the call from Barnstable County and the beach people will drive right out. So it could be that we get the call at 10 and by 10:30 in the morning, it's gone again.
The sign was
Yeah.
gone by 6:30 in the morning, and we couldn't figure that out being a weekend. So I was wondering if there was some...
Well, we have beach staff working 7 days a week right now. So we have, the beach staff is working 7 days a week. The natural resources staff is working 7 days a week.
Yeah, we'll try to update the website.
We'll try and update the website better than we have.
One thing too, when it rains over so many inches, they automatically close all shellfishing for 48 hours.
Right. When it rains for more than so many inches, we automatically close the aquaculture shellfish sites to give it a chance to
I think
clear
it's
up.
48 hours, so that would.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Excuse me a minute. Okay, we do have one question that would be pertinent to our organization, and it's asked, says, as we begin to age, we find the need for some part-time handymen for do outdoor chores, things like that, wondering if there's a need by others in the same position, and asked if we could generate a list of part-time available help. I think, you know, there's a lot of people, I think, that would benefit by this. It's an individual thing. You know, do you know somebody? Do you have somebody? That kind of a thing. It's not like obviously people could check the want ads as well, but that's probably not a very good idea.
Council on Aging, they have lists.
Council on Aging doesn't.
They don't. Okay, then we will get that.
Okay, so that's something that Jackie can work on, and we can certainly work on. And what I would ask from members is if you have a part-time person who can do part-time help for you, would you send an email to Member Services with that person's name and contact information? That way we can begin to generate a list of part-time help for individual households. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone have anything else? At the front table here? No. Okay. Members, thank you very much for taking time on your Saturday morning to come, and hope you have a nice fall